David Spade.
Hey, bud, how are you?
Wow, I've been a fan of yours since, well, we won't go back that many years.
Buddy, I appreciate it, and it's great to talk to you. You were riveting to see on this thing. You were there with your coffee, leaning back. But what a shit show, man. My God. It must be interesting for you because you were right up in the trenches.
You know, David, I lived in the zoo for a year, and I can't tell you what a trip it is to look back on that year. Dirty, you can't imagine. You live in a mobile home with three other people, my camera crews, and you hear the sound, the roaring of lions at night when you go to sleep, which terrified my little dog. It's a very unique experience to live inside a dirty, nasty zoo.
Yeah, I imagine it didn't look like the Four Seasons, and the weird thing is everyone there was lived there, and it had like sort of a culty feel to it when they wouldn't leave or come back, you know?
Yeah, you know, there were two separate people in the zoo, two separate groups of people. You have the animal trainers, which were basically runaways, misfits, alcoholics, drug addicts. And then you have the studio crew. We had our own trailer, which were kind of the college-educated, yuppie type people. And when you mix the two together, it was quite a blend inside, especially when you have 1,200 wild animals and you're getting inside the cages with them all the time. It was quite a menagerie.
Right, because it started out just to educate everyone. You were brought in because he had like a cable show with about 80 viewers, I think they said.
Yeah.
And you were going to come in because you knew the business and you were going to blow it up a little bit. I don't know what the angle is to make it the Carol Burnett show. Just do anything to make it more professional, right? To make it viewers up.
The idea was when I first got contacted, one day my phone blew up, the email blew up. Everybody I knew was calling, getting hold of me saying, you have got to go get this job. This guy's looking for a producer for his internet show. Yeah. And as you said, he at the most, if he ever had 80 viewers, I'd be shocked. There was about 30 or 40, actually.
Feels generous, yeah.
Yeah, on his cable internet show. And so I got on the phone, I talked to this guy, and he started, oh, hey, Rick, what the bleep are you doing? Come on up and bleep and meet me, and blah, blah, blah. So I went up to meet him, and I never left, because when I first met Joe Exotic, I knew this is $1 million show. This guy, I'm going to retire on this guy. So I said, look, I will produce your little internet show if you sign a contract and let me have a camera behind that crew and produce a reality show of the entire thing. And he said, absolutely, make me famous. I'll make you rich. And that's how.
Yeah. And then in the fine print it said, your other duties are help kill Carol Baskin.
In the fine print, I won't pay for your therapy you're going to need for the next 5 years. Yeah.
Well, I'm on your team where it sounds like a great idea. And then you've got Eric, the other director.
Yeah, Eric good.
Yeah, right? So it's like the camera filming you, filming them. And here's the main guy, Joe, and his crazy shit.
Exactly. We had camera crews following Joe Exotic.
It was the Florida Kardashians. Now, the footage, the big thing, obviously, for you that was, I want to joke about it, it sounds crippling, was losing all that footage in the fire. What were some things on there? I mean, you obviously lost everything. But was there some things you missed?
Lost everything. But, you know, there was the suspicion over the fire. 2 days before the fire, Joe and I got into a very bad argument on the fact that I owned the rights to the reality show. I basically owned Joe Exotic. He was not happy, and he made a quick turn and ran out of town for a few days, supposedly for a funeral. But he locked the door on the studio. And he changed the locks, so I couldn't get in without having the park manager come in and let me in the next morning. 2 days after that, the studio burned to the ground, and it burned so badly. I had backup hard drives with all the footage, but it was in a safe, but it melted the safe. The fire was that hot. There was footage in there of Joe actually killing animals for fun. He had, in the course of my year, he'd have walked up to a tiger he didn't like and just shot it in the head. I tell a story about a horse that broke my heart. This lady drove in one day, and she had a horse trainer with this old horse that was sick, and it was just getting old. And she cried and said, Joe, could you take care of my horse? I can no longer care for him, and you have a lot of space. And he hugged her, and, oh, yeah, hon, it'll be fine. You leave the trailer. We'll bring the trailer back tomorrow. We'll put him out in the pasture and give him a good place. As soon as the lady left the park, Joe said, "Rick, grab your camera, start rolling." And I roll on him. He walks up to the horse trailer, pulls his shoulder out, shoots the horse in the head dead, and laughs. Just laughs. That was Joe Exotic.
Well,
and
you know,
of course, he fed that horse to the lions.
Now, this is horrible because you see this, and, you know, Eric, the director, there's probably a lot darker stuff. And it's sort of, when I'm talking to people like you know, there is a way to go so dark about it, but, you know, we like the funny characters. You know, you see these people out. There's a fun to it, and then there's the reality to it, which is terrifying. Like at the end, I think, you know, it's all presented sort of like this crazy Ringling Brothers group of misfits, like a sitcom, but toward the end, he was poking with a stick on the tigers, and that turned off a lot of people because you didn't see a lot of that. And then he's asking about the drugging up of them, and he's like, "Rick, wait here. I got to go buy gasoline and matches." Yeah. I mean, I'll be back. But that stuff where people start to go, "Oh shit, it is very real."
You know, I find it hard to believe that people can actually ask me, "Rick, was it really that bad?" Trust me, it was a hell of a lot worse than what you saw in the documentary. They didn't have enough time or footage to be able to show you how bad it was. David, I went seriously. I got 6 months of therapy after I left that zoo. I went to see a shrink. I went inpatient for a week at one place in Dallas, Texas, just to get my head back on straight. It really messed with my head, and a lot of it had to do with my own inner feelings. You know, I knew 4 or 5 months into my stay at the zoo that what I was doing was not right. What I was seeing and filming, what the show I was creating, I knew that I had sold out my own soul, so to speak, that I'd really kind of chewed up my journalistic integrity and thrown it out a window. But I stayed thinking, okay, I'm this far in, I've invested everything, I'm going to get this show done, and then I'm selling it for $1 million and get the hell out of Oklahoma. Unfortunately, a week before I had the show sold, everything burned up. So in a way, karma kind of came back for both Joe and I. He's famous, but he's sitting in prison.
I know, and this is his biggest dream, is to be famous, and he's sitting in there.
Can you imagine? The guy is famous as hell, and he's in a 6 by 9 foot cell for the rest of his life now.
That is tough. I also was going to say, do you feel like he's a hero or a villain? But I think I know that answer.
Yeah.
It's funny because there's so many documentaries on Netflix that are great, and this one sort of captured everyone. I don't know if it's because we had to watch it because of the quarantine, or but
you couldn't have timed it better, I'll tell you.
They did a good job with it. Like, you get introduced to people as you go, and there's more things happening, and your fire. It did feel like just a casual viewer going, "I'm sure Joe, you know, looks like he's walking around with a gas can."
You know, it's really strange, David, that why, to me, of course, I'm in it, but it's strange that this thing has really taken off so big. I know everybody's in quarantine, but, I mean, my wife just a little while ago, she goes, "Look, Rick, there's a quiz on which Tiger King character are you on Facebook." I don't know how all this has come about over one documentary series, especially one that really didn't get to show you just how bad it was.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of had a little bit of a heart for the guy, but you really didn't realize or get to see how evil he really could be, not only to animals, but to people.
Well, sure. I mean, it must be weird for you going to the Costco in Norway and people coming up, because, I mean, it is worldwide.
It's Netflix. Happening. Yeah, it does. Here in Norway, I went in the other day, 2 days ago, to pick up the newspaper, and, of course, I'm on the front page of it, a Norwegian newspaper. And the girl just freaked out at the counter. Yeah. So, yeah, even on the other side of the world, people are just, everybody is Tiger King, Tiger King.
For sure. Were you around when the tiger bit his shoes and dragged him?
No, that had actually happened before I'd gotten there. That was footage of his that he had. The course of my time, I saw enough, believe me. I even was attacked by some of the 6-month-old tigers, as you saw in the documentary. And immediately he said, Rick, you got to make it look like it was fun. You know, well, I'm bleeding from the jugular vein.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great time.
Did no one went to help him with that? Was that because the general vibe there was like, let him go down if he goes down?
I think the general vibe was, I hope the tiger wins.
Yeah, that sounds like from what you're saying.
Nobody liked Joe. The man had no friends. he really had no friends, because every time he got a friend, he either took money from them or he screwed them over somehow. The guy was really a loner. He really was. And it was really sad. I think that came out in his personality in the documentary, that the guy is really sad. You know, he didn't know if he was gay or not. He kept saying how gay and redneck cowboy he was. But, you know, in the conversations that I had personally where he'd cry, literally lay on my shoulder and cry, he didn't know what he was. He didn't know who he was. He just knew he had a whole lot of money coming in the zoo in cash that he didn't have to report, and he could buy himself his little boy toys and his drugs and whatever else.
Yeah, it seems most people would think fame would fix things, and that's probably a general feeling. I could tell.
I think you know that personally, just as I do. Fame doesn't fix anything. It causes problems, if anything.
Rick, you're hinting that I'm a disaster, and I think everyone's on to that. I could tell his hair, his barber didn't like him. I could tell, and his hair colorist. Do you? Let me see.
There's some people out there, David, think you should play him in the TV series now.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I've been reading online. You may be starring in Tiger King.
Yeah, I like to hear that. I don't know if I could do it any justice, but I do get excited about thinking who would be in that thing.
If anybody could play Joe Exotic, I think you could pull it off. I really do.
Am I halfway there? Who was the last person you talked to at the zoo? Are you friends with anyone from that squad?
I am. I've heard from virtually everybody who worked there since all this publicity has come out. My camera crew, of course, I've stayed in touch with them very well over the last 3-4 years since I was there. As far as the animal trainers, I've heard from about 3 of them. Eric, who's in the documentary, another girl, Morgan, who was an animal trainer, and they're all just saying, "Hey, I got my minute of fame. I'm so excited. Did you see me?" And just kind of tell them it's not really something I'd be proud of.
Yeah, fucking minute of fame, more than that. Yeah. Actually, Eric's the one that looks like Vince Neil from Motley Crue with the Oakleys.
Yeah, Eric actually, he's a good guy. He really is.
He seemed like a cool guy. Listen, a lot of them, I talked to a few of them, Saf and John, and they all seem like, I won't say victim of circumstance. You know, they're probably in there with their eyes wide open. But sometimes when you're down on your luck or things aren't happening or you're in rehab and this is a job and he's paying, you get caught up in something and you turn a blind eye. But it sounds a little rougher than we all even imagine in there.
Well, you know, the thing is, too, like I said, Joe would actually go to the bus station to pick up people, runaways, and just misfits to bring them in and work. There is a real kind of a hard to explain magnetic feel when you have a big cat in your hands.
Yeah.
When you're able to hold a tiger, you know, there's a big ego thing to a power trip. And for someone down on their luck or trying to get clean or whatever, you get thrown in where you get to play with tigers. All of a sudden, you're like Superman, you know, and you're not exactly ready for that.
I feel that when I walk around with my Emmy nomination. Let me see. Let me see.
If I borrow that Emmy, I'd like to walk around Norway with that.
You're already killing it out there. Always wear the hat. That's going to help you. I was going to ask you one more thing. Oh, I was going to say, was there a bloopers reel? But I feel like the whole documentary was a bloopers reel.
You know what? The whole documentary was a blooper, and this is the after effect doing these interviews. This is God coming back to get me again.
Well, listen, you were part of it, but you're talking about it, and I think you got in there to film something interesting, and once you're in it, you're in it. It's hard. I mean, not making excuses, and you don't sound like you are. You did what you did. And
I made my apologies, and you know, I've got to meet God one day, and He'll say, "Rick, I'd let you in if it weren't for Tiger King." You know,
right? Hopefully, God isn't standing there with Carol Baskin. Did you ever try that Walmart pizza with the expired meat?
You know what? Quite honestly, I did eat a steak one time that they had made, but I didn't know they'd gotten it off the Walmart truck. But we used to see them pull in with all this stuff from Walmart. Twice a week, the truck came in. And the animal trainers, they only got paid $100 a week each. So they would be in the pile of all this expired meat going, "Hey, I got sausages. Hey, I got steak." I actually did eat one of the steaks one time, but I be honest with you, it wasn't that bad, but it had only been 2 days expired. So
Jesus. I mean, it's kind of funny, but those people are starving. I mean, they need food. They're not getting paid. It's not funny.
They were
I get it.
and they needed that food. They really did. Without that food, honestly, I don't think people would have survived. And in the wintertime was even worse because it was so cold and there was no store anywhere around. The zoo's in the middle of bumfuck Oklahoma. Let's be real.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. I just don't want to go to catering on mystery meat night because it could be really anything from that whole place.
Been at the zoo, man. You would have livened it up a little bit, David. We should have had you there. You could have been Joe Exotic's alter ego, the nice one.
Yeah, I think zoos in general are turning the tide where it was always fun and you sort of didn't want to know what goes on backstage and like circuses, but they're slowly disappearing because it's just the reality is too rough.
Yeah. I think the day of the especially the roadside zoos, but the day of the zoos and the day of the circuses are pretty much coming to an end. Ringling Brothers stopped using the elephants 5-6 years ago. I think the day is coming where we're gonna be able to see these animals, in 8K video, but not behind the bars stuck in a little cage.
I think that's what everyone's hoping for. But thanks for talking to me, buddy. I know you're staying up late for me, and I appreciate it.
Not a problem, David. Really enjoyed it.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, again.
Take care, buddy.